Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural CEA seminar. CEA is the Controlled Environment Agriculture Student Association. I'm the current president. My name is Alex Feldman, and I'm really excited to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Merle Jensen, the founder of the CEAC, if I'm not mistaken, and the godfather of CEA. His topic of the discussion is, so you want to be a consultant. He has 40 years plus years of experience in the horticulture and greenhouse hydroponics industry, and is going to share a little bit of his experience and what it means to be a consultant in this field. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Merle Jensen.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alex. Can you hear me okay? I was very fortunate. I kind of want to say this before I get going, because I'm going to be talking about what I went through to become a consultant. Didn't happen overnight. You had to know something. It's kind of like, Miller, the basketball coach. He said, well, our basketball players think they're in the NBA. And we're still learning, you know what I mean? And so I was very fortunate that I had great professors. I think that's number one. And number two, when I came into graduate school, plastics had just been discovered. So you can see how plastics change. We went from clay pots to plastic pots. We went from clay towels to PVC pipe, and on and on. So it was, Bud Anta. You work for Bud? No, good. I knew all the Antas. They gave me $4 million. Yeah, that's true. And Dr. Caceres here, part of that. He didn't get $2 million, but he wished he had. Anyway, so with that, so I was very lucky to have great professors, and they were very demanding. But just give you a little background on how I grew up. I grew up on a farm in Bellingham, Washington, north of Bellingham, on the Canadian border. And we only had three things in life. It was work, school, and church. Going to school, I had two outfits. One was in wash, and one I was wearing. And the next year, it was my work clothes. And boy, when August came along to go to school, I got two more pairs of cords and two flannel shirts. That was a big deal. So anyway, I decided very early, when I was in high school, that maybe I should go to college. Didn't do well in high school. Cheerleaders and those fast cars were pretty great. By the way, before I go on, I want to introduce you to my wife, Sharon. We're going to talk to you about a partnership, and I can tell you I'm married up. So just remember that, marry up, okay? So anyway, I decided that rather than driving potato truck for a life, that maybe I'd just go to college. So I went to Washington State University, and I failed everything. I had to start all over. Bonehead English, bonehead math, and you can see I never learned much English, but anyway. And, I didn't want to. I went there 2 years. In fact, I went there 1 year, then went in the Navy. I was in navigation in the Navy. And I remember one morning as a seaman, I was swabbing the deck. And the news came to me, and they said, the captain wants to see you. The captain's 1 notch below an admiral. I had my old dungarees, didn't shave that morning, was swabbing the deck. And he came to me and he said, I want to tell you, gentlemen, everyone there at the company, this guy got the first perfect score in ship's history. Maybe I can go to college. So after the Navy, I got the GI Bill, went back to college at Pullman, Washington, and decided I didn't want to grow apples and grow wheat, so I went to a school called Cal Poly. Have you heard of Cal Poly? San Luis Obispo. 22,000 students. Last year, freshman year, they had 57,000 applicants. Because it's a polytechnic school where you not only go in your class, but you go to the field in your labs. So if you had only to read out of your textbook and then go and grow a tomato crop, you wouldn't make it, I always say you have to kill a few plants to really learn. Anyway, from there, I did really well. I had great professors. And from there, I went on to Cornell University. Cornell was really the home of vegetable crops in America. All the students that went out and got their doctorate, they went to Davis, California, North Carolina, and so forth. Then from there I went to Rutgers, and I worked and that's how I met Dr. Giacomelli. But I worked there on the faculty, and at the same time I was a student. And my job was to develop a greenhouse vegetable industry. And I can tell you where Dr. Giacomelli comes from, they're Italians. And they don't believe everything that those professors say. But after 6 months, I was invited in for clams and a glass of wine, so I had made it. Anyway, I learned a lot with those people, and I decided that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do research, and I wanted to do it in a way that no one else was doing. And so what I wanted to stress first of all is the education I had. So I just put this up here, and you could see. Can we lower these lights? I guess I can, can't I? How's that, better? Great. Anyway, you can see I got about 26 books there. And all of those books have to do with agriculture. When I went to Washington State, I had Forges, Botany, and Introduction Horticulture. Then I went to Cal Poly, and you can see what, well, I'll just show you here what I have. Those are all the books, everything from economics, principles, heredity, oxyacetylene handbook, farming machines, farming business, everything associated with agriculture I had. And when I went to Cornell, then now I'm in the big league, and I got soils again, soil-plant relationship, vegetable crops, plant pathology, fundamentals of then Rutgers, on and on. So I was very lucky to have a very good education. When I was at Cornell, that's when my research really started, and I was under a professor by the name of Dr. Raymond Sheldrake. All the soil mixes you use today originated at Cornell. It was called the Cornell Peat-lite mix, peat and vermiculite. I was a student, so you know who did the work. I came to Dr. Sheldrake one day, and I said to him, Doc, I said, I can't make it. You're working me too hard. He said to me, he said, Jensen, I watch you. You're talking too much. I guess a lot of you know me. He said, you got to work, and you're going to play. And he said, you better start working midnight. Boy, I went to Sharon. I said, I'm going back to Cal Poly. They want me back there. The heck with it. Then I got to thinking about it with about a 6-month-old baby and starting out in life. I better just stay there. So I went there to work at nighttime. He came there at 12 o'clock midnight with coffee and donuts and said, Jensen, I know you'd be here. Changed my life. And so I worked there, and he said to me, we're going to do something. We got plastics now. We're going to put plastic on the ground, and then we're going to plant melons and cucumbers and tomatoes through that plastic. You got black plastic, clear plastic, white plastic. And he said, we're going to put a cover over called row covers, a low-cost tunnel. He said, I want you to blow it up with air. At nighttime when it gets cold, I want you to put heat through there. You open up the door at the end, you put heat through. And I did that. But I got to thinking, how are we going to water that? So I put drip irrigation underneath there from Chapin Watermatics. First published results that I know of in the world on drip irrigation. I called it ooze tubes. Didn't have another word. And so anyway, we published an article. And so I'm just going to tell you as I went along in my education. Then I'll get to the end and I'll tell you what you should charge as a consultant and how you do that ballgame. But I want you to know you've got to go through a series of steps. And I don't mean to be bragging to you what I went through, but I want you to know what we went through, okay? I worked in 65 countries. I sweated a lot. And we'll go over some of that. So there at Cornell, I had a report, and I was invited by the American Society of Horticultural Science as a master's student to be at a special colloquium talking about what's next in agriculture, in controlled environment agriculture. Remember, I had the tunnel, I had the heat, drip irrigation. It was all part of controlled environment agriculture. after leaving Cornell, I went to Rutgers University. And one of the things I wanted to do was to get growers. My job was to develop a greenhouse industry at the same time to get my doctorate. So I had to get some followers. So I started writing a newsletter. Excuse me. I wrote a newsletter every month. I wrote 27 of those newsletters. And I ended up having 250 farmers that received that newsletter. And it was very successful. And at the same time, writing that newsletter, I said, I'm going to grow in synthetic soil. Well, Dr. Sheldrake, he taught me how to grow in peat moss and vermiculite. I'm going to grow in this artificial soil. You know what he said to me? My professors at Rutgers, no, we don't do it that way here. We steam sterilize that soil, and that's how we do it. Well, if you ever want to steam soils, we got a steam Jenny over there. Just try it sometime when it's about 110 degrees in a greenhouse. And I got halfway through that, and I went back to Sharon, and I said, we're going back to Cal Poly. I was so ticked. So, you know, you always have a snitch in the department. So I went to him, and I said, I'm going to Cal Poly. I'm getting out of here. Well, that professor came to me and said, no, you can do this. So we don't want you to go. You stay here. So I did. And so what I learned, what I saw in plastics, I knew about photosynthesis. I knew about temperature control. I knew about complete combustion. And at the end of 1 year, I wrote an article right here. A new approach to high yields. It says here, the inside Rutgers greenhouse illustrates how new production ideas, white opaque plastic covering the floor, reflects light back into the plant, soilless peat and vermiculite mix, plus clear plastic trough liners, eliminate soil diseases, water is applied through soaker hoses, what we call it, not drip irrigation, running through the length of the trough. And that went, we didn't have things that went viral, but it went all over the country. That we got 100 ton in 3 months of harvest, when normally 6 months of harvest over 1 year. We got 100 ton in 3 months. Normally in 1 year, they would get 50 to 60 tons. So it was news. It really happened. And so with that, I interviewed for a job at the University of Arizona. What I wanted to do was come back. You know, my mother always wanted to be a missionary. And I said, well, I may not know the Bible really well, but I'm going to know horticulture really well. That's what I'm going to do. And so what I did is I came to Arizona, and they said, we're going to want you to go to a country called Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi? I thought it was a breakfast cereal. I had no idea it was a country. And I looked on a map and said, sure enough, that's where I want to go. I want to go to the desert because I love the heat. So we went to Abu Dhabi, but first of all, we had a big grant from the Rockefeller Foundation. It was about, $800,000, and I was hired under the Rockefeller Foundation on a temporary basis at University of Arizona. And I was hired by the Institute of Atmospheric Physics. I had not a clue, but they wanted the horticulturists because they tried to grow those physicists and didn't have a clue. I mean, if you had them laying turf grass, you'd have to yell, green sides up. It's just kind of joking. Okay? So what I'm saying is that, I learned a lot at Cornell and learned a lot at Rutgers. So we developed a research station at Puerto Penasco, Mexico. And I did a lot of work there and found out that if you have peat and vermiculite, we can't get peat down there. I couldn't get it across the border. If I had more data, I probably could do it. But the university wouldn't honor more data, so I had to sit at the border, and it was difficult to get peat moss across. And I said, anyway, in Abu Dhabi, they're going to have trouble getting that because it's nowhere, right by Saudi Arabia. So I said, we got to grow in sand. So I remember the class I had in plant physiology showing nutritional deficiencies of every element growing in sand. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take that experience growing out of a pot and do the whole greenhouse that way. And so I planted in sand, and I planted in peat and vermiculite. And peat and vermiculite has what they call cation exchange capacity. It holds on to the nutrient. And so when I watered that, the nutrient would get held, And I water it once a week with fertilizer solution. And I did that with sand, and they just about died. Sand has no cation change capacity. So what I did is water every irrigation. I had fertilizer in the water. And guess what? I'm going to show you what happened. Unbelievable. Eggplant. Cucumbers. Wow. Abu Dhabi's got lots of sand. So then we started publishing. And one of the things in academia, what a lot of academics do, they like to write in publications that are refereed. And you got to do so many of those to get tenure. But the worst thing I do is hate to do research and then talk to my fellow researchers. It's not going anywhere. If you're going to be working with farmers, you got to publish in the trade journals. You know, when I did that, I found out that talking to the farmers, I was traveling more than all the professors in the department giving lectures on how to grow tomatoes, because I was out there sweating and learning how to do that and had great professors. So what I did was that we developed a project called Power Water Food. In other words, if you could take 20,000 miles of desert coastline in the world and grow food, you could feed another billion people. You've got to have power, you've got to have water, and you've got to have food. So what we did is develop what we call Power Water Food. This is an article in 1969. That's before most of you were born. Here we did. Power Water Food. There's a gift for the desert. And we did inflated greenhouses. We took seawater and desalted it, our own designs to desalt, and we grew crops you wouldn't believe. At the same time, I wrote another article called The Exciting Future of Sand Culture. Then another one we did, boy, I was really slamming them out. In other words, says, take a look at seedless cukes. Every time you eat a seedless cuke, it started here at the University of Arizona. We had them in Europe, but not in the States. When I showed the buyers that out of New York City those new cucumbers, they said that zucchini squash will never sell. I said, no, it's cucumbers. Anyway, we got that going, and next thing you know, we get invited again to a big conference here. This was in this use of controlled environment vegetable tank. This is the first use of controlled environment, and we were growing plants in that pure sand in Mexico. We knew all the varieties. And we were again invited to a special symposium to do that. We got a call one day, my boss, here at the University of Arizona, and they said, we are calling from Abu Dhabi. We want one of these over here in Abu Dhabi, and it's the ruler, Sheikh Zayed. And so we went to Abu Dhabi. And guess who had the short straw? Sharon and I, with our two daughters, we went to Abu Dhabi. I remember I came back from Abu Dhabi one time and told the customs guy, he said, where are you coming from? I said, Abu Dhabi. He said, don't be smart. He didn't even know where it was himself. Okay? So we went to Abu Dhabi and we built a factory there in the middle of the Arabian desert on a barren island. I couldn't get cement from Iraq. It was hard to get from, so I got a lot of my stuff from Israel. But it had the Star of David on the back. So I went out to the ships that night, at nighttime, rebagged all that stuff and brought it in on land on these ships, these landing craft. That's how. I mean, if you really want to get done, you got to do those things. Even though you got a PhD, you got to do it. So anyway, this is what we built, and this went into every magazine in the world. I'm not going to show you. I'm going to show you some publications, but these. Of that work I did, all these publications right here are just on my master's and doctorate degree. These are all newspaper articles all over the world on the work we did. A lot of sweat. A lot of people saying you can't do it. Don't tell me you can't do it, because I'll make it work. There's nothing impossible. The only limitations is how you think. But you put all the numbers together, what you learned in college, put them all together, and you'll find out you got tremendous power. Well, what happened was that we had my children, and Sharon was there. I even started an American school, still going today. Brought the teachers in from Princeton University, But I call this the three wise men shop. We lived in the trader house. My kids went across the wooden dowel for about a half hour to go to school, and gave them to a Sudanese and said, get the kids to school, and brought them back. Trusted them. We had no choice. Okay? So we did that, but you know, we had to desalt the water. We had to heat the water, so we had a Cleaver Brooks boiler. And you see the distillery, the salty plant in the back. We're taking seawater, 42,000 parts per million. Very high in salts because we're in the upper end of the Gulf, and a lot of pure water evaporates. We brought in 3 large engines, 500 brake horsepower to make electricity for our whole complex. And this is what we did. Now, rather than about 6 greenhouses in Puerto Peñasco, we now went to 5 acres. And anyway, I like to tell a story. Remember, I had a lot of visitors. A guy named David Rockefeller, Muhammad Ali came to see. And I got all the people together and I said, we got to clean things up. Got Muhammad Ali coming. And they all grumped and grumped, and they said, I had a little Pakistani in the powerhouse, and his name was Muhammad Ali. They were going to clean that greenhouse up for that little guy. And I said, no, it's Cassius Clay. Oh, you mean the real Muhammad Ali? And we had 3 presidents come through at one time. Never saw so many machine guns in my life. Never thought when I grew up in Linden, Washington, I'd see that in the place where I worked. I remember the guy, the president of Somalia, he spoke English, and he grabbed me, and he saw my banana plants that I brought in, little shoots from Kew Gardens in London. I had banana clusters like this. Oh, he said, I see you got bananas. I said, yep, Mr. President, we're going in competition. I only had 3 plants. He grabbed me, gave me a big hug. You should have seen the machine guns come up. He said, it's okay. It's okay. Dr. Jensen's okay. Anyway, lots of good experience. I can write a book on this, I guess. Anyway, we'll go on. So the thing is, look at what we grew. Here's sand. That sand was 99.9% calcium carbonate. If you had acid solution, you would form rocks. I had to keep the pH exactly 7 so we didn't melt that sand into solution, tying up with phosphorus. That's another story. We ain't got time. That eggplant, remember I showed you Mexico? Here we go. Remember I showed you the cucumbers? Here we go. There's the boxes that we had. Saadiyat means the island of happiness. Where we had the greenhouse, they're building a whole memorial to the ruler of that country now. They thought that much, I guess, of our project. Greenhouse tomatoes. Our earliest, we just put the produce in bags and then we'd bag it up on the mainland. They didn't know what a long cucumber was. That short cucumber you see in the market now was developed in the Middle East by the Palestinians and the Israelis. The long cucumber, they didn't know what it was. So I had the ruler eat one on TV. Popular the next day, just like that. In those days, we had the president was Richard Nixon. If I had him do it, they would have thought something was, suspicious. But no, the ruler did it. So again, we wrote articles here. We wrote more articles, the Pride of Abu Dhabi. And I would go with these Bedouins into the desert and we'd drink milk right out of the udder of the camel. If they drank a lot of seawater, the milk was very salty, so we'd put sugar with it and then drink it. Hey, when they got the guns and all the money, you got to drink a little camel's milk, you understand? But what a great experience it was. The use of plastics in agriculture in Abu Dhabi. This is the Nature Science Annual by Life Magazine. You see where we go. Even started working for the UN in Kuwait. On and on. We're starting to travel a lot. Got a call from British Petroleum. They said, we're giving Shah of Iran a gift. And that is, we're going to build a greenhouse at the oil terminal, and we want you to build it and design the system. So off we went to Iran. Built the project there. You see that greenhouse there? See those pipelines? Iraq and Iran were in war. Iraq came in to bomb the terminal, hit my pipelines, and also hit my greenhouse. It's the only greenhouse I ever built that was airmail. But anyway, was destroyed, and the committee wanted me to come back and build it, us guys, but we said no. But this is what we did, see? I'm about through here, but I just want to show you some more. So we had a company called Superior Oil, and they wanted the oil concessions in Abu Dhabi, and they came to us and said, we're going to build a big greenhouse in Tucson. If you go down Valencia Road to Country Club and go south in Country Club, you'll see a fence there. That's where my greenhouse used to be. We've got a foot of sand with polyethylene underneath, and people don't know what to do with it. 10 acres of sand. But we built that facility there. That's what it looked like. We had people from all over the world coming to see that. Then we built projects for the Quechan Indians. And then a solar energy project came in. We ran into the oil crunch, where those nations over there in Arabia cut the oil on us. They boycotted it. So there was a big deal. How are we going to heat the greenhouses? Dr. Giacomelli worked on that. He was active now in research at Rutgers University. I did a lot of work on that. And so what I did, we did that in greenhouse, but I built an office where I had Venetian blinds between two panes of glass, painted black, and they would heat up, and that heated air would go into a rock bed under my office, and I would heat that office in the nighttime by putting air through that warm rock. And I grew 600 pounds of vegetables in there every year, and Sharon made the macrames, and this is what it looked like. So that made covers of magazines and so forth. I'll show you another photograph. Got I had a lot of cover stories. I did another one here. It was pretty nice. Howard Branson hasn't read that article yet, but that's what we're looking at for in the Middle East for our space shots, where people can hire or pay a passenger fee for $100,000 and go into space. We want to have a thing with that in the future. Anyway, let's go on. What happened was, because of what we were doing all over the world in publicity, Walt Disney came to us and said, we'd like to have you possibly do something about agriculture at Epcot Center. So they sent me over there, and I had 4 projectors. I had two projectors, and I had units where the dissolve units, where one slide would dissolve into another one. So I did a Disney thing, and they were impressed. They said, "Oh, we never pay anyone any money. We never pay anyone any money." I worked at the University of Arizona at that time, 20 years on grant money. That's why I went all over the world chasing money. He said, we don't pay anyone. I said, okay. They couldn't find anyone that could do it, so they gave us $1 million to start. Walt Disney Company. And so we came up with ideas to do that. In the meantime, we had been through all these experiences and so forth. And what was happening was that we knew we were going to get that Disney grant. So we started building things like this was a spinning drum. That spinning drum would spin inside of a stationary drum, 60 revolutions a minute to create geotropism so we could grow food in space with no gravity. And then we had a lot of other things that we're doing that no one ever saw before. You can see here, space age growing in a drum by 2017. Anyway, tomorrow's agriculture today. You could see what we did. Aeroponics, sand culture, aquaponics, everything you see today, most everything you see today started at the University of Arizona and Rutgers University. You go to Horta Daily, I look at all that and I say, wow, I'm glad they're catching on. But they are. It's worldwide. So anyway, we'll go on here. So what we did was that we got ready and we had a lot of photographers come in. And this is the Horticulture Magazine here. It was fun. Can you read that? Brave New Garden, The Outlandish World of Merle Jensen. So what I'm telling you is experiences I had in working with research, and it wasn't until about 15 years after I started that I started consulting. People would come to me, okay? And I'll tell you a little bit about that. So what I'm working on is that you have to get knowing. You have to have a good education and then get knowing. And be creative. We got lots of room for creativity today. You just got to think, what are the real problems? Vertical farming is a big deal. Who's going to harvest the lettuce? If you want to see lettuce production, go to Salinas, California, and see Bud Antle Anton Tanamir and all those people. I got friends over there that load 300 semis a day. And you're going to grow some lettuce in a warehouse? Come on, give me a break. But I'm going to tell you this. They'll be in the inner city, they'll be in hot deserts, and it'll be fully robotics and automated. And we were growing containers, and we'll put a lid on it, ship it to market, and you know who's going to sell it? Amazon. You know, the supermarkets are really worried about the future. They're worried about Amazon. You can call Amazon, get all your groceries, they'll deliver it to you within 2 hours. Who's going to go to Walmart? Fight the traffic. Anyway, I'm just telling you what's happening. And that, I've heard that from one source. Monsanto was talking about it, and they told Dr. Giacomelli and I. And we're working on these automated systems, robotics. It's going to happen. Okay, so now I was having fun. You know, remember, you had to write articles to get tenure. You got to be scientific, you know, and trade, you know, all that. My gosh. JR got on the cover. That didn't get on the cover, okay? But I'm just going to show you. Here, old MacDonald had a farm, but not like the one Jensen built for the 21st century. The only people saw that was my aunt down at the hairdresser. But look at that. Here we're on stilts. Sharon's in that photo. We had lots of international students come. She was in charge of international programs for host families at the University of Arizona for many years. So we have them all over the country, all over the world coming to our house. So you see how this is fitting together. I want to show you one other thing. And you know, I started getting these things from all over the world. It's quite remarkable. Well, I was in the centerfold, fully clothed. You see that? Oh, Kamini, he got on the cover. But anyway, we got inside. Science. Let's see. So you see what's happening. How many every language in the world had our stuff. This is all about what we were doing. All in Japanese. I'd have to get Dr. Kubota to read it, but you can see there the drum. And this is the show we started designing. Epcot, we said, this is what we're going to put in the Epcot show. We're going to have a tropical area with sugar cane and bananas and rice. We even grew rice in pure sand. Beautiful crops. See that Chinese cabbage there that weighed 12 pounds and growing in 60 days. And so that's what we did, and it went on. Even the ag engineers wanted the story. And I like this one here. They said, well, Doc, what do you think about the future? I said, well, in the future, the farmers will still wear straw hats. But what's under those straw hats, I can tell you, it's a lot different now than it used to be. One more thing I'm going to show you. This is the top architectural magazine company in the world. This is Epcot. Okay? Now, I really hesitate to tell you this because I know I'm proud of it, but I'm going to tell you anyway, okay? So this is Epcot. Billions of dollars a program. The Art Pavilion was $52 million back in 1968. This is the preface that the magazine wrote, and it said, however, the two most intriguing areas of one's introduction to Epcot are aspects of two pavilions, the structural language and space utilization of geosphere and the Merle Jensen contribution, and they go on. Wow. I normally don't tell people that because Sharon makes me stop. Okay? I'm going to tell you one more thing really interesting. You don't know. See that? That was the propaganda arm to the Russians. The Russians sent a magazine to us called Soviet Life. We had a propaganda magazine called America over there. And the Bass, Ed Bass, John Allen, Margaret Augustine of the Biosphere, they're planning to do that. And they went over to the Soviet Union. They said, we're interested in that propaganda magazine you had to the United States talking about Bias 3 at Siberia. How you survived in this enclosure. You know what the Russians said to them? You don't need to come here. Just go to the University of Arizona. They can help you. Sure enough, the Biosphere came here. And what did they see? What did they see that caused them to say, well, maybe there's something at the University of Arizona? I'll show you here. I think I got it here. Look at that. Okay. So, it's been a great ride. And so what happened was, Dr. Rohrbaugh and I, back in 1997, had students come to say, hey, Dr. Jensen, you're going all over. Can we learn what you're doing? I said, okay, we'll do it. I need this kind of money just to pay for materials. And every Saturday and Sunday for 7 months, I'll work with you guys. You guys come in from Phoenix all over. So this is my first class right here. That baby now just starting college. Okay, that was our first class. Then we went to Governor Hall. I had great support from our dean at that time. He always told me, he said, always warned me where we're going, because he said, if you're going to go see the president, let me know. But we never did that. But anyway, I asked Governor Hall that we need a lot of money to start this place, and that's how we did it. Anyway, with that, I want to say that I still get very much involved. I like to write about what I call the agriculture revolution. There's an article to come out next month called "The World's Desert Must Be Cultivated," and I still do a lot of writing. It's so much fun. It's a hobby. So you say, well, what is your hobby? I'm going to show you what my hobby is. I'm going to show you here. This is my hobby in Tucson, in my backyard. My gosh, a glass of wine tastes good there after a long day. So then I took my consulting money and built a home in Washington State. And I have a botanical garden there. Okay, so let's talk about consulting. First of all, it takes a lot of work to gain knowledge of what you're going to sell, okay? And you'll find out that, I gave a lot of knowledge away, and you have to start that way. You have to learn how to do that. But the thing is that I always found the more you charge, the better they listen to you. And what happened in agriculture academia, most farmers got it free, but that doesn't happen anymore. Because budgets are so cut back. Dr. Giacomelli's budget is cut back a whole lot of what we had. We had $700,000 to start with, and he can tell you what we have left over. And we may have to talk to the dean, but if you want me to tell you about the dean, we'll talk about it, okay? Or with Dr. Giacomelli, because the students have a lot of power. Are we going to replace Dr. Kubota? I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. That's all I want to say, okay? So the thing is that so as a consultant, so I used to start at $100 a day. $100. Boy, that was a big, tall con. And then I found that they were calling me. So I said, look, when do I put the meter on? I'd say it a nice way. It's called a retainer. So I said, well, you can call me anytime you want to if you pay me so much money a month. And that has been $500 for some, and others $8,000 a month. Okay? And so, but you work your way up. So I started at $100. Today it's $200 a month. I mean, a day. If I do depositions, it's $500 to $600 an hour. I'm talking $200 an hour, regular, and then and I do a lot of depositions. There's a lot of lawsuits around. And if I go in front of a jury, oh heavens, thousands. So anyway, you're getting older, and I don't like to do this as much. Right now, I do a lot of. I'm gonna tell you something. This vertical farm thing is great, unbelievable. You got to get to know Dr. Giacomelli, Dr. Cassera. They know what they're doing. Alex is working on that. But just learn about that. How can we automate? What can we do? Dr. Giacomelli and I, for years, have been wanting to go into schools. When I worked with the Walt Disney Company, we had many students. Our teachers would see that, and they would incorporate that into their classrooms of science. And I had a pair of teachers from Sunnyvale, California. They built 2 spaceships in their lab, in their school. One was on hydroponics, growing food. Other one was on human health, and they were going to go to another planet and do terraforming. Take a slice of Earth and build a new habitat. 6th graders were writing a hypothesis. They won the top award with Disney out of 200,000 applicants as the Teachers of the Year, and they traveled 2 years with Disney, talking about what we're talking about right now. The kids are hungry. Right now we got more darn turmoil in this country, and the people are saying, what are we going to do with our kids? So I'm telling you what I'm doing with the kids. Dr. G and I talked about this. Let's take what we do right into the classroom. So what I do now, I do a lot of things free now because I just want to get it done while I'm still living. Where's my iPad? So what I do with my iPad I set up a little lab and a little stage right at my home in the back. You saw my backyard. And I talked to sixth graders in San Bernardino, California. They are from some of the poorest areas of California. And they are so hungry for science. So the other day I gave a lecture to them about soil, different soils, media, peat moss and vermiculite, and told them, and they were all listening, sixth grade. I could see the whole class. I'm talking on this iPad here, and they could see me on a great big screen. And I reverse the camera and I show them all the growing media. But I say, what's sustainable? It's coconut. And I show them 80 coconuts on a tree. Every year those 80 coconuts are replaced. I said, it's sustainable. We are mining the earth with peat moss, and we won't have any left someday because it takes hundreds of years to get that. But coconut works. And boy, they all got really excited. So what they're doing now, and I showed them how to grow out of a styrofoam chest. Dr. G did that one time nationally in this country with Martha Stewart. She was out of jail by then. Okay. Anyway, he did that, and we could grow lettuce in a nutrient solution in a cup that has coconut fiber, coconut core in it, okay? So those kids are coming up with an idea. So last time I met with them, and I meet with them again next Friday, and I now got the school board, and I got the areas of the big muckety-mucks coming in from Southern California to watch me, okay? But now they're taking a Coke bottle, cutting the top off, turns upside down, put a piece of gauze in there, put growing media, and the lettuce starts to grow, goes down, and feeds on the solution. Hydroponics. So I said you got to have different size containers and different growing media. Now you got to be scientists. Those teachers in Mountain View, California, where those two teachers, all those kids went up out of the sixth grade, and in junior high, the teachers would say, what are you doing to these kids? They all want to be scientists. There's something about caring for plants and animals that just humbles people. No, these kids were getting $5 a day, whatever, $5 to have food, and they were spending it on cigarettes, but now they were spending it on this lab that the teachers built. And they bought a star in the ceiling with the kid's name on it. Next thing those kids are not sealing, they're protecting their home base. You see where we're going with this? So what I'm saying is right now. We ought to have a place right here at the University of Arizona going to 1 million kids. The electronic weekly reader, bringing science in from this place into the classroom. We can do it. I can do it on an iPad. But we'll have a good studio to do this. Why not? It's ready. I'm just telling you it's ready. I showed you what I did as a student. Why don't you guys do it? Okay? I know one of you are going to rise up and do it. That's what we need. If you charge $5 a student, you got 1 million, it's $5 million. Just think what you could do with $5 million in science in the classroom. When I got the money to do this place here, I brought the chief of staff from Governor Hall down, and I went to one of the high schools here that was working with me, and I said, I want to have all the kids there on Saturday and have that place smoking. Got the money. Got the money. So anyway, that's my story. And you understand consulting, get good education, have a lot of good courses. If you have to do courses on Google, you can find so much today in Google, but there's nothing more than experience with your hands in that greenhouse. I won't embarrass Dr. Giacometti, but he could probably tell you that greenhouse out there to operate for 36 kids costs $100,000 a year to operate. Because we want to give you a hands-on education. Got to pay for the professor, got to pay for student labor, and we got to pay for the furniture. And even though I raised the greenhouses and got it free, I even had to pay rental small. I had to pay the rent of something we built. So that's the way it is. But I'm saying there's opportunity, and I said you can be a gene jockey, stay in the lab with your coat on all the time, not work with people, just talk to your fellow scientists, go out there and feed the world. That's what you can do. Why not? Why not? I'm only 78 years old, and I'm good for another 12. Why not? As long as Sharon holds up. Anyway, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. If you have any questions about consulting, so what I'm saying is, get going, find out, you'll get what the market will bear, but learn a lot. You have to kill some plants. Learn a lot, but don't kill them twice. Learn the first time. Learn, and we got a lot of hands-on things going. You know the Monsanto project? They come here because of us. You know what got them to come here? Because the Maui tree huggers up there didn't want any GMOs. They don't even know what a GMO is. A GMO is a plant that has natural resistance, or we can spray those plants with a chemical that pollutes the groundwater, and we wonder why in Iowa people are boring up with missing certain limbs. That's our choice. So they said we're looking for another place where we want to be loved. Came here, worked it out with Dr. Giacomelli. They've been working those greenhouses there. You know what? They're going to build a 7-acre greenhouse, $100 million. It's going to be the most robotic operation in the world. And it will have a tall fence around it. Because that seed is worth a lot of money. And they've lost a lot of $1 million in germplasm stolen by the country. So that's our future. That's our future. We have 800 kernels of corn in 1 year. Can you imagine? And those leaves are up like that now. They used to go like that during the Indian days. They're like this now. Receptors of the solar energy for photosynthesis. Respiration, photosynthesis. You got to know all that stuff. We got people getting in vertical farming. They don't have a clue. I said, you know, the only time you guys give carbon dioxide is when your workers come to work. And the guy came to me and he said, look at my graph. I can tell how many workers come on the weekend. You can tell. See, look at the wide open bulb. Millions of dollars are being spent by these city slickers that think they know how to grow food and they don't have a clue. So pick a job, do it well, understand it, see the future, go for it. Be the top draft choice. Top draft choice is not only in football or basketball. It's called agriculture. Agriculture. We're going to feed the world. It's in our hand. It's in our hand, okay? So I like a photograph that I have here that I like it really well. I'm going to show you. And I really love this photo. Yeah, here it is. I love this photo. As I said, the world is in your hand. Here it is. The world is in your hand. A reflection of a greenhouse, okay? Thanks a lot. Got any questions? I'll try to answer. You can tell I don't get excited, you know. But it is. It's so exciting. You know, he's sitting there. I'm sitting at home, and I said, how can I make that lettuce grow in there and float it right out of the greenhouse like onto a robot? How can I package it? I think we got it figured out. So anyway, you're glad you're here. I'm glad to see so many here. And did I talk enough about consulting? What I'm saying is get a good education, get experience, publish. You know, I told you where to publish, and then you'll start getting asked to speak and so forth, and have some ideas. Okay, do that. Okay, any questions?
If anyone has any questions, I can bring you the
Anything
microphone because we're recording here. So anything about consulting, any more questions about how that is done once you get to the point where you're ready, or any other questions about his experiences or whatever, we have about 7 minutes for questions.
You know, I could have come in here and just talked about, well, this is what you should get paid and what you should do. I could just do that. But I just want to tell you, I wanted to tell you the trail that I was on to do this. And I didn't show you the 100 magazines I have at home. I spared you. Sharon wouldn't let me do that. You know, I'm proud of them. But, you know, you'll have that. But I've been doing this now for 55 years, so, you know, it adds up in time. But again, a good rock foundation. Organics is important. We're going to have a lot of, you know, we just can't teach the public about ions and cations, and they just don't want to listen. You know, the ions that go into the plant is the same for animal waste as it is from chemical fertilizer. Same ionic form. You think they're not believing us in politics anymore. No, they're not even believing us how to grow food. So the thing is that if Mama wants to buy or the family wants to buy organic, we just charge them twice the amount of money. You know, it's all about falus, as we say in Arabic. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Jensen. Thank you so much for your talk. It was great learning your experiences and kind of what it takes to really become an expert in the field. And could you speak a little more to the nuances of those things, of how to do consulting? You know, whether you're working on an hourly basis, whether you're working on a retainer, what kind of range of of ways do you do that?
Well, on an hourly basis, so, if you start at, in my case, it's $200 an hour. So that's $1,600 a day. But I have a kind of a loosely organized company, and some of those guys don't charge that much. But the thing is that, I would start maybe 120, and if you work a couple hours, you can then charge them $240. And you tell them, look, I'm gonna you get going, and you make that successful. You take a lot of photographs. My iPad, I have 36,000 photos on that iPad. I can just talk to you about everything in agriculture everywhere. I just came back from Russia, and we're going to Ireland now. So in slides with Kodachromes, I have 55 carousel. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But take a lot of photos, and take photos of what you're doing for someone, if they'll let you photograph it, okay? And that builds your repertoire, your resume. You've got to have a good resume. I have a resume that I'm not going to show you that, because if you want to see that, I can show you. But it's quite a few pages. I have 100 articles that I've published, and 90 of those I have senior authored. My students, I only taught at the University of Arizona in 4 months. I was all over the world developing systems. And what happened is the 4 months I taught was Dr. Rohrbaugh when we started this. But so the thing is that you have to talk to people, and don't give them the whole thing when they're talking to you, just getting to know you. Just say, well, I can do a lot for you. And these are my photographs I can show you. And the photographs you're going to show them is what you're doing here at the University of Arizona, because you don't have anything else. So show them that you know what you show them. Dr. Pat's greenhouse. Show them there with your tomatoes. Get a group of photos together, and then if you've got a great idea, write an article. Get a hold of me. If it's good, I'll tell you. We'll get it published. And next thing you know, you get going. You got an article now. You published it. And if you're a professor, he's going to work with you and get a referee journal article. Do that. So you're going to be talking to the academia, which you need to prove you can do, that you can do research, and then you're going to also talk to the industry. And it's not instant potatoes. Let's put it that way. It takes time to do that, but start getting that put together, and just tell people when they say, well, I can really help you. This is what I've done. And look, the big guys get $200 an hour, but I'll just charge you $100. But I'll ask my major professor gets $200, and we'll just bleed him. No, he's joking. No, that's okay. We'll help you. Guatemala. When I went to Guatemala 8 years ago, they were coming on donkeys and bicycles. They're all coming on mopeds now. That's how we changed the life of people. You know how many people we hired in China? Because I lectured there, 4 different trips, 14 weeks, 35 million people that I helped nurture that. I didn't do it. It was a big team, and a lot of it's their own work, but we're at the Academy of Science. How many people we hired in Guatemala? 300,000 now. And they're little people. Maya, okay? When I come there, I feel like I'm in the marshal of the parade, I feel really good. There's nothing better than to help people. I understand why people are missionaries. Nothing better than to helping people. It's a great feeling. Okay?
Got time for one more. A lucky student.
No. Well, I'll be happy to talk to you again. If you just want an informal thing to talk, I'll be happy to do that. Again, I gave you an idea, but the whole thing is knowledge, and then proof that you understand that knowledge and you've done it. You had some good professors. We have good professors here, and we hope that we can get a couple of professors back again, and hope we can get that money. But we'll talk about that. You want to talk about that? We'll talk about that. Okay? But that's under Dr. Giacomelli's direction. Yes.
All right. This isn't directly related to the seminar, but on April 15th, I'm planning on trying to get all the agriculture-based clubs together to have an event, probably just across the street on the west side of Campbell. Would you want to come?
Sure. What part of April?
The 15th.
Are we here then? Yeah, we're here. She's my calendar. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be happy to. I mean, I work for Dr. Giacomelli when he has me. So, I mean, if I can help them, I'll be happy to do it.
All right, I'll include you on the mailing list for that.
Okay,
event.
good.
Going once, going twice. Any last questions? All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jensen. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we got pizza left. Don't we have some left? Or gosh. Well, I thought we had another box, no?
We did.
Bunch of cannibals. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm really happy that you came out. I didn't think we'd get 4 or 5 students, so that's why I get turned on. And it's so much fun talking to 6th graders. The little buggers, you'd think they would be raising hell, but they're not. They're eating it up. They're eating it up. And we could make a lot of money. That $5 on a million. Look at all the million kids we have. We can have advertisements in the corner of on our deal so that the parents can get into that. So there'll be a way that you can get into that weekly deal with the kids. The parents will learn. And we get big companies like Union Carbide. Those companies will sponsor us. They're hungry to get out in the public, and we can do it through the 6th grade. So think about that, and gosh, if I can come back, you got some thought, I'd be happy to just answer questions. I know I've talked too much, and I didn't mean to brag, but I just had to go through that to say it wasn't easy. I've been in Egypt. I've had a lot of guns pointed at me. I've come to work in Morocco, and I had a hammer in my drip systems because I had a tower 300 feet high, and the reservoir was on there. When I shut the water off, I had a hammer, and it blew my filter up. The pieces went all over 1 acre, and all my workers ran away because they thought the Polisario came in. They were drilling. I worked with the Zapatistas down in Guatemala. I worked on the peace treaty between Israel and Arab. Didn't do much good, but I was there for 2 weeks. So I've been to a lot of interesting places. I've been driven in the desert with MiGs flying overhead with landmines all around. I got a ton of stories to tell you, because when you're working with these people, and I've ridden a lot of camels, never got bucked off. Okay. Anyway, so that just touched the iceberg. Thanks again.